Hi, welcome to the Tea, Coffee, and Fantasy Football Podcast. We're back after a while. I'm Matthew,
I'm Jacob.
and today we're gonna do our annual 2021 redraft rankings for quarterbacks.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, looking back at last year's, like was is pretty fun because I don't know about you, but I felt I batted a solid, 50%.
mhm.
Um, just
I
kind of
feel like
shows
the
how much
quarterbacks,
redraft.
it's like you can't really mess up that much. Like unless an injury happens, there's gonna be no quarterback who you think who's gonna be top five, who's gonna be like a massive bust or stuff like that. I think it's like you know what you're gonna get going into the season, and it's gonna end up that way for the most part.
That's true. You can always maximize value, and if you're taking risks at a quarterback, you're not going to be taking those major risks as quarterback one. I have some guys that I love as players, and I just love their situation, but I'm still not going to take them as quarterback one. So
Yeah.
just get into it.
But yeah, what do you think of Mahomes this year?
I mean, nothing's going to change. It's just the only question with Patrick Mahomes is it going to be too early to take him? And you're probably going to get some morons. I mean, in our league, we had a guy last year who took him second overall. Granted, he thought it was a 2 QB league, but anyway, yeah. Personally, I just wouldn't be drafting Mahomes as much as I love the player. I mean, straight up, I think the best quarterback I've ever seen. And but I can still get Josh Allen like a full round later, maybe like tail end of the third, top of the fourth. And Josh Allen's insane too, but he has more rushing volume than Mahomes, and Josh Allen might even have more passing volume too. So
Yeah, so my quarterback one isn't Mahomes. It's he's my QB two. My QB one is Josh Allen. And the only reason why I put him above Mahomes is just like his insane rushing ability, and like in fantasy, rushing gives you points, especially for quarterbacks. He's basically like the Bills running back one and quarterback one. So I feel like because of that ability, it gives me the edge over Mahomes.
yeah, that's true. And I think I would just still go Pat Mahomes, but to me, that's just like personal preference, just
Yeah.
because I never seen a quarterback quite like him. But spoiler alert, Josh Allen is my QB2. They're in a tier of their own. Gaps, but not as big as I think ADP would suggest. In
Uh-huh.
PPR, Allen's ADP is 38. So again, that's a full round later than Patrick Mahomes. And if I'm getting 97% of Mahomes' points a full round later, then I'll take that.
Yeah, but I think both their ADPs are too high. Like both are what, like third, fourth round, and like I would rather get a good value QB later on. We could talk about that and get like I don't know, like a CD Lamb, like a DeAndre Swift, than get Mahomes. Like, I don't feel in a one QB league that it's worth getting those players so early.
Yeah, and it's kind of been like that for a couple years, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And especially this year where I'm going a lot more early tight end because there are what six good fantasy tight ends, and the rest you are just throwing darts, rolling the dice, whatever. So if I'm already taking a tight end, if I'm trying to get Kelsey in round two or Kittle or Waller in round three, I don't really have room for a quarterback because then my running backs and receivers are just going to stink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I forgot what the stat was, but like the difference between the QB one and the QB 12 was like 3.6 points per game. So like there's not a huge massive fall off after or for QBs.
That's true. And especially with a one quarterback league,
Yeah.
you want to take a guy, you kind of want to have a guy that you think is the best value. I mean, you got to be flexible too, but you kind of got to take a guy that you believe in, if that makes
Uh-huh.
sense. It's almost kind of like in real life, you know?
Yeah. So going off of that, or not going off of that, but my QB three, I feel like QB three to like five is pretty interchangeable. My QB three is Lamar.
My QB3 is Kyler Murray, and I completely agree that QB3 through five is pretty interchangeable. And I think when you talk about the next five quarterbacks, I'm again, kind of more gambling on youth and upside because I feel decent about the floor.
Mhm.
But one thing, and I'm kind of seriously considering bumping Kyler down a spot,
Huh.
is injury concerns with him because I think it's just the last couple seasons he's been a little bit banged up. He was banged up toward down the stretch last year. I mean, he was healthy mid-season. He was like QB1, one of the fantasy MVPs, and it just kind of it was against the Seahawks. He kind of messed up his shoulder a little bit and fell off a bit.
Yeah, so Kyler was my QB4, and I have Lamar as my QB3. Just like the reason why I like Lamar more is just because he's like obviously the best dual threat QB in the league. He last year hit a down year, but I think he got COVID, did he? Or something. But like he had a down year by
Yeah,
his
he got
standards.
COVID. I remember
Safe to
that.
say that most of his weeks are going to be a bounce back year, kind of like 2 years ago when he won the MVP. And then his offense got better too. He got who did he get? He got Bateman, Wallace, and Sammy Watkins. So like that offense can be super high powered. So I think everything's gonna be working out for Lamar this year.
Yeah, you know what? The more I'm thinking about it, spoiler alert, my Lamar is my QB4. I may have to bump Lamar up to QB3 just partly because of Kyler's injuries, but also I remember what the Ravens did with Lamar earlier in the season. They were kind of trying to get him practice, so to speak, as just a pure pocket passer. Whereas in 2019, Lamar, I think maybe would have taken a lane and just gotten 10
Uh-huh.
yards out of it. He just was trying to get more reps at staying in the pocket, going through progressions downfield. And he's shown development in that area. I mean, he's not perfect. I mean, he's a good passer, and he's not quite great yet, but he's still good paired with his generational athleticism. And his receiving core last year was a little rough outside of Mark Andrews. Hollywood Brown was okay, but they needed a perimeter receiver not named Mark Andrews that could make contested catches. And my God, did they get that in Rashad Bateman?
Mhm.
Like he was one of my favorite prospects in the draft. I couldn't believe they got him at 27. I thought Green Bay should have maybe, traded up for him because I mean, there's no way he was getting past the Ravens at 27. It's just too perfect. But I mean, if Bateman is impact as a rookie, I mean, I'm not ruling out a Justin Jefferson type of impact for Rashad Bateman.
I don't think so. The offense isn't built for that.
I, okay. I mean, I'm not saying even think he'll be as good as Justin Jefferson, but he could be like, what was he, the fourth receiver taken, mid 20s type of player who just breaks out. I mean, he's great. His release is just pristine. I'm going on a tangent on Rashad Bateman, I know, but and you know has the ability to make contested catches, a great route runner, and he just seems like an overall gamer.
Yeah. I feel as far as like where they're going, I feel like again that's too rich for me. But if Lamar, I've seen him several mock drafts and on sleeper where he's fallen to like end of the fifth, early sixth. And if he's there, or if Kyler's there, I'm taking that every single time. Like that's good value for Lamar and Kyler.
Yeah, this is where I mean, because Mahomes, I don't think is just in most drafts. Someone's gonna get greedy and take Mahomes in round 2 or Allen in round 3. And I just would not be taking those quarterbacks higher than their ADPs. I just wouldn't really even think about it. But I mean, like you said, like Kyler or Lamar in the 6th, I mean, just yeah, why not?
Mm-hmm. So my QB5 is Dak Prescott, and I guess my reasoning is that he might not be like elite in his play style, but like fantasy wise, he puts up insane numbers. 2 years ago, he was QB2. Last year before his injury, he was on pace to be the QB1 by a lot. So like assuming, and I think he will come back from his injury pretty well, he's just gonna be back to gunslinging and throwing the ball. Like it may not lead to wins, but he's gonna put up tons of yards, tons of touchdowns, and that offense is just gonna be explosive for fantasy.
I have Dak as my QB7, which I know seems low, but keep in mind QBs 5 through 7 are extremely close for me. I mean, you kind of maybe even get a little bit of a mini tier gap after like Lamar between my then to my quarterbacks 5 and 7. But with Dak, I'm not worried about the injury with him because it was kind of a freak accident. Ankles are going to tend to, snap when a 250-pound linebacker lands with all his weight on it. I mean, God, that was ugly. But I mean, all reports are that he's put in the work in rehab, as we all knew he would, and that he's looking, better. But to me, if you're drafting Dak, you're not only relying on him to stay healthy, which, I mean, again, like we showed with Dak, even if you're not injury prone, one bad hit can, knock you out for an entire year.
Mhm.
So you're not just relying on Dak to stay healthy, which I have confidence he will, though. You're relying on all his weapons and offensive line to stay healthy, because I, I'm just going to be a little upfront. I just think Dak's pretty overrated by people who say he's an elite quarterback, which I think those people are mostly Cowboys fans. But Dak, he's just not. But part of the reason he gets all his production is he tends to stay in rhythm well. He can, and I mean, the thing is, his receivers are just wide open all the time. Like, it's pretty remarkable. I wouldn't even, the play calling is fine. I don't think the play calling is terrible. It's not McCarthy's offense, by the way. It's Kellen Moore's mostly. But Dak has, to me, he's more reliant on his weapons to produce for him than he is on producing almost for himself. So if, say, Amari Cooper gets hurt, or God forbid, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb get hurt at the same time, I would expect a drop off in Dak's production. Or if a few of his linemen get down, he's facing more pressure. Again, I would kind of expect that to hurt his production. So that's why he's QB7 for me. Uh, I think he's a little riskier than maybe other people think, but that's just me.
I don't know. I get like you're kind of arguing that like he's not elite, but and then like he kind of puts some empty stats. But like in fantasy, empty stats are good, and like he's going to, regardless of the receivers, he's going, like, he finished QB2 without CeeDee Lamb. So like even if CeeDee Lamb is hurt, he'll still be great. Like he'll continue to put up insane numbers, and like it doesn't really matter if he's elite or not in real life. In fantasy, he's just gonna get points for passing yards and stuff like
I guess that game situations will still favor Dak in some stat padding, because their defense is still terrible.
that. Yeah.
Mike McCarthy has a talent for hiring terrible defensive coordinators. He hired Mike Nolan, was the worst defensive coordinator, and was let go. And then he just hired Dan Quinn, who in Atlanta ran basic cover 3 70% of the time. Opposing quarterbacks knew exactly what he was going to do, and they didn't have the talent on that Atlanta defense to bail him out.
Yeah. So who's your QB5?
I have, oh boy, this is quite a bit of a change from last year, but I actually have second-year quarterback from the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert, as my quarterback 5. His ADP is around, in PPR, his ADP is 65.6. And to me, I'm now a believer in the talent, and the situation is better than it was last year. The O-line is like, this is a pretty drastic swing from an O-line that was bottom 5 last year to a legitimately good offensive line. They stole Corey Linsley in free agency. You're welcome, by the way. And they got Rashawn Slater at 13 to be Herbert's blindside protector for the next 10 years. They also signed Matt Fio, who's kind of underrated guard, tackle, swingman. And plus, I'm also looking at the second-year QB trend of quarterbacks that kind of take leaps in their second year. Last year, I thought that guy was going to be Kyler. He didn't quite really do that. He still was a monster in fantasy, but he didn't quite, reach those heights. Yeah, but Kyler still, even on film, didn't quite reach those heights that I had expected for him. But to me, Herbert's already even better. And I just want a minute to talk about him as a player, because he has some of the best ball placement and accuracy that I've ever seen from a rookie quarterback. Just look at there's one throw I remember he made against the New York Jets where, I mean, his receiver had half a step on the defender. Herbert from no joke, 55 yards away gives his receiver a handoff downfield. It's those types of jaw-dropping plays, and the mobility is there. So I tend to have a rushing floor threshold. If I'm taking a quarterback, I tend to like them to rush for 200, 250 yards plus a few touchdowns. For a while, that was pretty standard for Aaron Rodgers, so I just called that the Aaron Rodgers threshold. But I mean, Justin Herbert, I just think he's only going to get better too.
Mm-hmm. I agree with most of the things you say about Herbert, but he's my QB8, and the only reason why I put him as a QB8 is I just feel at the 7 quarterbacks in front of him, I would much rather take them over Herbert. So my QB5 obviously is Dak. My QB6 is Deshaun, and that's obviously a big if. I have zero clue if he's gonna play or not, because I don't know what's happening. But if he plays, he's my QB6. He's amazing. He's always gonna be amazing on the field, not off. And then my QB7 is Russell. He's finished around this area every single year, and I don't think anything's gonna change. I think they let go of their offensive coordinator who was run first, so that should really open up the offense and stuff like that. So I feel that Russell is gonna have another great year, and I don't think that Herbert is going to put up those type of numbers.
That's true. But personally, if I'm taking a quarterback kind of in whatever the 7th round of a 10-team league, I would, because Russell, I feel very safe about Russell and even Dak, to be honest, even though I kind of laid out some concerns about all his guys staying healthy, but keep in mind most of his guys are probably going to be healthy. But with Herbert, there's a chance, I'm not even necessarily projecting this to happen, but there's a real chance that by the end of this football season, we're looking at Herbert as a legitimately elite quarterback. We're looking at him in the same breath as Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, hypothetically, if he plays, Russell Wilson. There's a chance that we look at him like that. And if he makes a leap from year 1 to year 2, then his production, I think, will skyrocket as well because his situation only got better. I would have liked to see them add a speed receiver. I keep thinking about what happened if Jalen Waddle landed with Herbert instead of Tua. Anyway,
yeah.
But anyway, I think Herbert has the most upside out of him, Russ, and even Dak, to be honest. But it's still with Dak and Russ, I'm sure that they will return value. Herbert, I think, has the potential to maybe return the most value at an ADP of 65.6, which in a 10-team league is the 7th round.
I feel what is it? In most of the mocks I've seen Herbert go a good round or 2 before Russell. And I would rather take Russell. I mean, I would take neither of them at that value, but I would rather take Russell 2 rounds later, and he's going to put up similar numbers.
Yeah, I see what you mean. If Herbert's going around before Russ, I'm taking Russ a round later. But if all 3 of them are available in the 7th round, I mean, Dak probably won't be, but I would just personally take Herbert.
Where were we? QB7?
My QB7 was Dak. My QB6 is Russ. Who's your QB8?
Herbert.
Oh, you're right. QB7?
Yours? 7 is Russell.
Oh, you're right. My QB8 is Rodgers, and spoiler alert, I did not rank Deshaun Watson because again, I don't know if he's going to play. I just kind of didn't rank it because I didn't really even want to think about it more than I have to. And just don't draft him super high, to be honest. My gut tells me maybe he won't play, but again, we don't know.
He's not being drafted at all, I don't think.
Yeah, just don't draft him. Don't worry about it. Don't draft him.
Yeah. My QB8, technically 9 if Watson plays, is Rodgers too. I don't know if Rodgers is going to play. So, if you're drafting, I'm not going to draft Rodgers right now. I just don't know if he's going to play. But, if he plays, he's going to be my QB8 or 9, depending if Watson plays.
I think it's much, much more likely that Rodgers plays. I personally doubt that he sits this season because he's 37, 38. He's going to want a ring soon. I think he's just, and plus he's like, I've seen like off-season videos of him like training or whatever. I think he's gonna, you know, I think he will show up. And I think all this him kind of being like at the match yesterday, him kind of like, oh, I don't know, we'll see. I think that's just him just messing with everybody.
Yeah.
And that sounds like totally something he would do. But I personally doubt he sits out the season. If you don't want to take that risk, that's fine. And is like, and there are plenty of fish in the sea. Let me put it this way: so you don't have to gamble on Rodgers. And heck, even if he plays, we might even be we're like average or so on him. So if you don't want to take that risk, if you think he's not going to play, that's fine. Plenty of other fish in the sea.
Yeah. So I guess now it's kind of the tier gap where it switches to like value quarterbacks. Like especially in mock drafts, I've seen these quarterbacks go a good like 2 to 3 rounds later than the quarterbacks we talked at so far. So I had a tier gap after Deshaun at QB6, and then after Rodgers at QB9, and my QB10 is Ryan Tannehill. Should I talk about him or?
Yeah, you go.
So I'm in love with Tannehill. He is the most underrated fantasy quarterback by far. Last year he finished as a QB8. He's stable. That's great. He had more QB1 performances than Lamar, which like if you want a stable, consistent quarterback, that's amazing. What else? He's got Julio, which is really, really good. He has a really late ADP, so you can get him late every single draft. Statistically, he's been on pace with Mahomes since he took over the starting job. So like, he has top 5 upside. He is a great value pick.
Yeah, I actually have Tannehill as my QB 11, and you kind of did kind of sway me on him. The more I think about it, like his situation didn't get any worse, and if anything, his defense still not looking very good on paper is only going to help him because almost like kind of what we talked about with Dak, some stat padding at the end of games, and I can't believe they got Julio Jones. Well, I can believe it because it's just a perfect fit, but I can think of a few more terrifying images for defenses than Julio Jones running a deep post and then AJ Brown running an over route just under Julio's deep post. That's called the Yankee concept, by the way. That's one of their favorite concepts in the Titans playbook and any playbook that runs a system similar to Kyle Shanahan's, which most teams in the league honestly do that now. But in citation on Julio has even said that he wants to run in a straight line more and catch a deep ball. And Tannehill's really, really accurate. Like he'll be able to deliver it, almost no problem. I really like Tannehill too, and they like to run read option with him a decent amount. So the rushing's going to be there too.
Yeah, who is your QB 10 or 9? 10, yeah, 10.
My QB9 is Jalen Hurts. Quick disclaimer though, I would be wary of him in Dynasty because I don't know if he's going to start more than 1 year, at least in Philly. Because Philadelphia's loaded up on draft picks for next year. They have 2 firsts next year, I believe. And they could use those 2 firsts and packages to move up for a quarterback. Or heck, if Hurts doesn't improve on his rookie season, they'll probably be picking in the top 5 anyway. And maybe take like I don't know, Spencer Rattler, Malik Willis, what have you. So I would be wary of him in Dynasty, but the rushing floor ultimately just speaks for itself. He was kind of just unpolished as a rookie. He didn't he made a ton of plays, don't get me wrong. That's what gives him a lot of upside if he just gets better as a player. We're talking about almost a Lamar Jackson 2019 type of breakout here. But even if he doesn't get better than his rookie year, he's still a good quarterback, you know. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
a good fantasy quarterback, maybe not in real life. He really needs to work on processing and throwing with anticipation and moving through progressions and that. But he's still a decently accurate thrower.
Yeah.
Honestly, worst case scenario,
Hurts.
I compare him almost to Drew Lock, but with a high rushing floor, which I know I got absolutely toasted by Drew Lock last year. But hey, if you're getting
I told you. I told you.
okay, but if you're getting Drew Lock with a high floor, in fairness, I think I maybe said don't take him as QB1 because that's still a little risky. Uh, honestly, I wound up not even drafting him in a lot of leagues because he just wasn't getting drafted. And so I'm like, okay, I'll just keep an eye on him. And then he got hurt. Then he came back and played terrible. But anyway, like if you're getting Drew Lock's type of passing upside, or at least that I thought he had going into last year, with that high rushing floor, that I think that's absolutely because the worst case scenario, he's still likely a starter in fantasy. I mean, who are they going to bench him for? Joe Flacco?
Maybe. But yeah, about Hurts is my QB 13. I agree with you. He's like a super boomer bust quarterback. He could be top 5. I would not be surprised. He could also be benched. So like if you draft Hurts, draft a stable quarterback behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a good quarterback by any means in real life, but he can run, and running makes you good in fantasy. So like that boosts his value a ton. And he also now is Devonta Smith. So like
I think
Smith, I mean, Smith's good. He might be a bust, but like, I feel having receiver drafted top 10 or whatever, or top 12 is going to help you a lot. So I feel like it's definitely a super high upside pick.
I think Devontae Smith is also going to be that quick separator that the Eagles didn't have last year and help maybe get the ball out of Hurts' hands a little quicker. I don't know how well Devontae Smith is going to do after the catches because of his smaller frame, but uh, I mean, nobody, I mean, future first round picks in the SEC still couldn't touch Devontae Smith. I think he'll be fine getting off, say, press coverage and running routes and everything like that in the NFL. I mean, he's still great at that. I mean, but where I would question him is like the run after catch ability, just because he's on the lighter side.
13 is Hurts. My QB 11 is Tom Brady. Um, Last year finished as a QB 8, which honestly kind of surprised me. And his situation has only gotten better. I would say like he lost no starters, so the chemistry is going to be there. He got I think Giovanni Bernard who can catch passes, which is good for him. And then like he's just Brady. Like he's going to put up insane stats on the offense. Winston did. Brady can easily. He can't rush the ball, so there's no top 5 upside. But he's still going to put up great numbers, especially for his value.
That's true. I have Brady as my quarterback 10 also. He's got a lower floor and lower ceiling, kind of like you said, because he just doesn't run the ball. It's kind of weird because he tends to be a guy that's almost overdrafted due to just name value and maybe get some 12-year-old bandwagon who takes him in the second round. But as happened in a couple of my leagues last year. But honestly, if you can believe it, I feel like 2020 was Tampa Bay's warm up. I mean, I don't even know that they really thought they were going to win the Super Bowl that year. Obviously, they were going to try, but I don't think they actually expected it to happen. But historically, in the second year of Bruce Arians' system, that's when everything clicks. Look at the jump from 2014 Carson Palmer to 2015 Carson Palmer, and they got all 22 starters returning. TB12 diets still working for him, so he'll yeah.
Can I say something quickly?
Yeah.
I don't feel like the offense is gonna like take a next like level jump just because like Brady, he's already at such an elite level. Like I don't think that like there's any growing pains for him. Like after week 7, whatever the bye week, it just clicked for him. Like I think that's how the offense is gonna be the rest of the time, which is still insane. But like
that's true. And I guess what I feel like I should maybe like clarify. Like I think they'll just pick up where they left off.
Yeah.
And I think the addition of Giovanni Bernard is super underrated, and I think it'll really help Brady a lot. Because frankly, Brady did not have a good receiving back at all. Ronald Jones has bricks for hands, so does Leonard Fournette. Neither of them understand space or turn up field when on the rare occasion that they do catch the ball. And Brady, like, frankly, thought he was just going to straight up kidnap James White mid-season at some point because he didn't have a running back who could catch the football, but now he does.
Brady's so QB 12 for me is Matthew Stafford. He's always been a really, really good quarterback, good fantasy numbers, and now he's in place in elite offense. He has a really good running back, two great wide receivers, and a game plan. I think Goff for the past few years, he's had the most passing attempts per game. So like, it's going to be insane for Stafford. I honestly think even if he doesn't run, he could have top 5 upside just by the insane stats he puts up.
Yeah, the Shanahan system, we see some quarterbacks make some pretty ridiculous leaps from year to year. I mean, Ryan Tannehill was a perfect example. I mean, heck, even Aaron Rodgers, in his second year under Matt LaFleur, well, he fixed a couple mechanical hitches he developed, ascended to being like an MVP. So, and Matt Ryan, the year he won MVP, that was when his offensive coordinator was Kyle Shanahan. So, plus, I mean, Sean McVay, he loves Matthew Stafford. Like, I mean, Sean McVay, he was just sick of Goff last year because he had to basically scheme up everything for him on a silver platter. He was in his ear until the 15-second rule where they cut out the connection. And he's just kind of telling him, kind of really had to feel almost like that McVay really had to baby Jared Goff last year. But now that he has Matthew Stafford, a guy who got an even better arm than Goff, is even more accurate, and a guy who's really gonna, I think he really creates a lot out of structure within the pocket, especially. Man, like, McVay's gonna have an absolute blast. I can't wait to watch the Rams next year.
So I had like Tannehill, Brady, Stafford, Hurts, and then Burrow. He's my QB 14. I had them all in the same tier. They're kind of like really, really good value picks. Like if I could get all my entire starting lineup, so like assume this is like 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, tight end, like 1 or 2 flexes. I could get all those and then get one of those quarterbacks, and that's insane value. That's my strategy for most leagues. And just about Burrow, he was on pace to be QB 15 before that injury. Hopefully he recovers. So I feel that he's a really good player too. So that's good. And then you also got Jamar Chase, who's just absolutely amazing. So like, I feel like you mean in that tier of really good value quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'm as big a Joe Burrow fan as you're gonna find out there. I mean, I just straight up think he's one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league, but I don't believe in the offensive line still. It wasn't even them passing on Sewell and taking Chase because that I think probably even more beneficial for Burrow just as a fantasy option because the connection he and Chase had in 2019 was just different. We're talking like Rodgers to Nelson or even now Rodgers to Devontae type of chemistry almost. But the interior of that offensive line is still terrible because the tackles aren't the worst. They have Jonah Williams and Riley Reef, but the interior of that offensive line, like, God, they're terrible. But I mean, Burrow's going to have to get the ball out of his hands quickly. And one way he is going to get the ball out of his hands quickly is a lot of back shoulder fades to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the perimeter. And Burrow throws a great back shoulder fade. And I really hope he has that statistical breakout. I'm just a huge fan of him. But the Bengals, Zach Taylor, like, really, come on. I really don't think they're going to help him at all. If anything, I think they're just going to keep holding him back. And a whole side tangent on Burrow and his deep ball issues last year. Burrow had a great deep ball at LSU. And I feel like part of the reason that he didn't have a great deep ball last year was because he had to rush his mechanics, because if you're throwing a deep ball, you've got to hold the ball a little longer. And that means your offensive line has to protect for longer, which Bengals have offensive line couldn't do last year. I don't have a ton of confidence they can this year. So I don't know if he's going to become really as explosive as he wants to be, but just because he won't get the protection. That's kind of my main issue. It's just mostly with the Bengals, and not a big Zach Taylor fan.
Where do you have Burrow?
Well, actually, I have Burrow at quarterback 13, so after Stafford at quarterback 12.
Yeah, I feel like their quarterback rankings are pretty similar. Like you can't, like my rankings are kind of similar to yours for the most part, similar to like most fantasy sites. So like, I don't know, it just feels pretty similar, and like you can't really mess up when it comes to like the order you take quarterbacks, but you can definitely mess up in like when you take a quarterback, and we can talk about that next time. Just like I guess
Yeah.
quarterback draft strategies and just like later round quarterbacks that we like.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you for listening.
Yep. Like and subscribe.